On the gleaming orbital platform of the Celestial Accord, high above the swirling blues and whites of a distant gas giant, representatives from 37 spacefaring species gathered for the Triennial Galactic Council Summit. The chamber was vast, shaped like a hollowed-out asteroid lined with polished obsidian and humming with quiet energy fields. Each delegation sat in curved alcoves that adjusted to their biology, some filled with breathable mist, others with liquid suspension, a few with dry, heated air. At the center floated the speaker's orb, a softly glowing sphere that translated every word spoken into every known language in real time. Humanity had been petitioning for full membership for nearly 2 decades. Their envoy, Daniel Hayes, stood near the edge of the human alcove, his posture straight but not stiff. He wore a simple navy blue uniform with no medals, no flashy insignia, just the Earth symbol on his left shoulder. Beside him sat Maya Ruiz, a xenolinguist who had spent half her life studying alien syntax and cultural nuance. Her dark eyes scanned the room, taking in the subtle shifts of body language among the delegates. She knew what was coming. She had seen the leaked internal memos, the private communiques between the Velnari and the Zenthari. They had already decided. The Velnari ambassador, Corin Vex, rose from his elevated perch. Tall and slender, with iridescent silver skin and 4 jointed arms folded neatly across his chest, he radiated calm superiority. His voice, when it came through the orb, was smooth and measured, almost musical, but cold. "The Council has reviewed the petition of Sol 3, commonly known as Earth," he began. "We have examined their history, their biology, their technological development, and their societal structures. After careful deliberation, we find that humans do not meet the minimum thresholds for full membership." A murmur rippled through the chamber. Some species shifted in discomfort, others remained still, indifferent. "Human lifespans are short, barely 1/5 that of the average council member," Vex continued. "Their emotional volatility is well documented. Their planet bears scars of countless wars. Many fought over trivial differences. They have only recently achieved stable interplanetary travel. Their neural architecture lacks the harmonic resonance required for advanced telepathic integration. Biologically, culturally, and ethically, they remain undeveloped." He paused, letting the words settle like dust. "Therefore, by unanimous vote, the Galactic Council declares humanity inferior. Their petition is denied. They shall retain observer status only, with no voting rights, no access to shared defense protocols, and no representation in matters of galactic law." The orb translated the verdict into over 100 tongues. On the human feed, it came through in plain English, crisp and final. Daniel did not flinch. He simply nodded once, as if acknowledging a weather report. Maya's fingers tightened around her datapad, but her face stayed neutral. Around them, some alien delegates avoided eye contact. Others stared openly, curious or pitying. After the session ended, the 2 humans walked silently through the winding corridors of the Accord Station. The walls shimmered with soft light, responding to movement. Outside the viewport, starships from a dozen civilizations drifted in graceful formation. None of them bore Earth's colors. Back in their temporary quarters, Daniel finally spoke. "They think we'll crawl back home with our tails between our legs." Maya set her pad down on the small desk. "They don't understand us," she said quietly. "They looked at our wars and saw savagery. They didn't see us rebuild after everyone. They saw short lives and called us fragile. They didn't see how much we pack into those years." Daniel walked to the window. Far below, the gas giant swirled in slow, majestic currents. "They called us inferior like it's a fact. Like gravity or entropy." "It's not," Maya replied. "It's just their opinion. And opinions can change." Neither of them mentioned the real sting, not the rejection itself, but the way it was delivered. Not with regret, not with caution, but with certainty, as if humanity's place at the bottom of the galactic ladder was obvious to everyone except humans themselves. Their shuttle departed the next morning. No fanfare, no escort, just a small Earth-marked vessel detaching from the docking arm and arcing toward the nearest jump point. Inside, Daniel reviewed the official transcript one last time before deleting it. Maya stared out the viewport, watching the Accord Station shrink into a speck of light. When they arrived in orbit around Earth, the planet looked the same as always: blue, green, cloud-wrapped, alive. But something had shifted. News of the Council's verdict had spread fast. Social feeds were flooded with reactions: anger, shame, defiance, dark humor. Governments held emergency meetings. Scientists debated whether to accelerate certain projects. Military commanders reviewed defense scenarios they'd hoped never to use. At United Earth Defense Command, deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, General Owen Carter watched the shuttle land on his screen. He was a broad-shouldered man in his late 50s, with a close-cropped gray beard and eyes that had seen too many simulations of Earth burning. He'd expected the rejection. What he hadn't expected was how it would galvanize people. Within hours, petitions poured in from every continent, scientists volunteering for high-risk missions, engineers offering new propulsion designs, civilians donating to space defense funds. A teenager in Nairobi built a working prototype of a radiation shield using recycled satellite parts. A retired pilot in Buenos Aires re-enlisted at 62. The message was clear. If the galaxy thought humans were weak, it was about to be proven wrong. But Carter knew better than to act rashly. Pride wouldn't win a war against a coalition of advanced civilizations. What humans needed was proof, not of strength in numbers, but of something the Council couldn't measure. Something they didn't even have a word for. That same evening, on the far side of the moon at the Selene 7 research outpost, engineer Leo Grant was calibrating a deep space antenna when he noticed an odd signal. It wasn't noise. It wasn't a known pulsar or comms burst. It repeated every 17.3 seconds, faint but steady, buried under layers of cosmic static. He flagged it for analysis. His colleague, astrophysicist Nina Patel, ran it through the decryption suite. At first, nothing. Then, after applying a human-developed pattern recognition algorithm, one based on how the brain finds meaning in chaos, the signal resolved into a sequence. Not a language, but a distress pattern, ancient, fragmented, and originating from a region marked on all galactic maps as forbidden, the quarantine zone. No ship had entered that zone in over 300 years. The Council had sealed it off after an unknown catastrophe wiped out an entire civilization. To go there was to invite exile, or worse. Leo stared at the readout. It's a call for help, Nina bit her lip. And the Council won't answer it. They both knew what that meant. If humans responded, they'd be breaking galactic law. But if they didn't, they'd be proving the Council right. They sent the data to Earth Command with a single line attached. We heard it. What do we do? General Carter read the message. Then he looked at the live feed from the Accord station, where alien diplomats were already celebrating the orderly resolution of the human question. He typed back one word, go. And just like that, the first move was made. Not in anger, not in pride, but in quiet, stubborn decency, the kind the galaxy had forgotten existed. The news of the Galactic Council's verdict spread across Earth like wildfire, but instead of shame or surrender, it sparked something unexpected. People didn't hide. They gathered. In cities, towns, and remote outposts, humans watched the broadcast replay, then turned to each other with quiet fire in their eyes. The message was clear. The galaxy saw them as lesser, and that was unacceptable. At United Earth Defense Command, General Owen Carter stood before a wall-sized screen showing live feeds from every major research facility, shipyard, and military base on the planet. His face was calm, but his mind raced. He had spent years preparing for this moment, not for war, but for proof. Proof that humanity wasn't just another noisy species clawing its way into the stars. They needed to show the galaxy what humans truly were. Not perfect, not peaceful, but willing to stand up when others looked away. He activated Project Longbow. It wasn't a weapon. It was a test. A series of extreme scenarios designed to push human crews beyond known limits of endurance, ingenuity, and cooperation. Simulated blackouts, artificial gravity failures, alien language puzzles with no solutions. Everything thrown at them at once. The goal wasn't to see if they survived. It was to see how they helped each other survive. Meanwhile, on the moon, at the Selene 7 research outpost buried beneath a crater rim, Leo Grant and Nina Patel worked through the night. The strange signal they'd detected kept repeating, faint but steady. It wasn't random. It pulsed in a rhythm that felt almost alive. Nina ran it through every decoder in the database. Nothing matched. Then she tried something new. She fed it into a neural net trained on human music, poetry, and emergency radio calls from old Earth disasters. The system flagged a pattern, a harmonic sequence used in ancient maritime distress signals. Not words. A play. Hey, it's not just a signal, Nina said, her voice low. It's a cry. Leo leaned over her shoulder, his fingers hovering over the console. And it's coming from the quarantine zone. They both knew what that meant. The zone was a graveyard of dead worlds and broken tech, sealed off by the Council after a mysterious plague, or weapon, wiped out the Cathari, a once great civilization. No ship had entered in 3 centuries. The penalty for violating the ban was exile from all Council space, permanent, but the signal kept calling. Nina looked at Leo. If we ignore it, we're saying the Council was right, that we only care about ourselves. Leo didn't answer right away. He thought of his younger sister, lost in the Jakarta flood riots 10 years ago. He remembered how no one came to help until it was too late. We can't ignore it, he finally said. They sent their findings to Earth Command with a simple note. We traced the source. It's inside the zone, it's still active. General Carter read the message twice. Then he called Daniel Hayes and Maya Ruiz, who had just returned from the Accord station. They met in a secure briefing room deep underground. No windows, no distractions. The Council thinks we're too emotional, too reckless, Carter said. Fine, let them think that. But recklessness without purpose is noise. Recklessness with purpose is action. That signal? It's a test. Not for them. For us, Daniel nodded slowly. If we go in, we break every rule. And if we don't, Maya added, we prove we don't deserve a seat at the table. Carter stood. Then we go, quietly, no flags. No announcements. Just a ship, a crew, and a choice. The Odyssey was chosen, not because it was the fastest or strongest, but because it was adaptable. Built in lunar orbit, it carried experimental shielding, a bioneural AI core named Helm, and a crew of 12, scientists, pilots, medics, all volunteers. Captain Elena Brooks, a former deep space rescue commander with a reputation for calm under chaos, would lead them. Daniel and Maya would serve as diplomatic liaisons, though everyone knew there would be no diplomacy in the zone. Leo and Nina would handle signal analysis and astrophysics. Preparations moved fast. In 72 hours, the Odyssey was loaded, fueled, and ready. Families said quiet goodbyes over encrypted lines. No parades. No speeches. Just handshakes and tight hugs. On launch day, the ship detached from the lunar dock under cover of a solar flare. Its engines fired silently, pushing it toward the edge of known space. As Earth shrank behind them, the crew felt no fear, only focus. They weren't going to prove humanity was powerful. They were going to prove it was decent. Inside the ship, life settled into a rhythm. Elena ran drills. Leo monitored the signal, which grew stronger with every light hour. Nina studied old Cathari records, piecing together what little was known about their fall. Daniel and Maya practiced emergency protocols, though neither expected to use them. The AI Helm spoke in a soft voice, offering updates and suggestions. It had been trained on human ethics, not just logic. 3 days into the journey, they crossed the first boundary marker, a ring of derelict satellites left by the Council as a warning. Beyond it, space felt different, colder, quieter. Stars seemed dimmer, as if the light itself was tired. Then the signal changed. It wasn't just repeating anymore. It was responding. When Leo sent a simple harmonic ping, the signal echoed it back, slightly altered, as if trying to communicate. Nina's eyes widened. It's learning. Elena called a meeting. We're being watched, she said. Not by the Council. By whatever's left in there. No one argued. They all felt it. The weight of the zone pressing in like walking through a tomb that still breathes. 2 days later, they saw it. Past a cloud of frozen debris, past the shattered remains of 1,000 ships hung a structure so vast it bent starlight around it. A Dyson swarm, millions of solar collectors orbiting a dying red star. But the swarm was broken. Gaps yawned like missing teeth. And at the center, drifting like a ghost, was a ship. Not just any ship. It was kilometers long, shaped like a coiled serpent, its surface pitted and dark. That's not Cathari, Maya whispered. No, Daniel said. It's older. Much older. The Odyssey slowed. Sensors screamed warnings, radiation spikes, gravitational anomalies, unknown energy signatures. But the signal was loudest here. It came from inside the derelict. Elena made the call. We board. They suited up in reinforced exosuits, each carrying tools, scanners, and emergency beacons. The airlock hissed open. Silence swallowed them. Inside the alien vessel, gravity was erratic. Walls shifted without warning. Strange symbols glowed faintly on the floors, pulsing in time with the signal. Leo found a control hub, a chamber filled with crystalline consoles that reacted to touch. When he placed his hand on one, images flooded his mind. A civilization building wonders, then panic, then silence. And something else, a silver mist spreading through corridors, consuming everything. It wasn't a plague, Leo said, voice shaking. It was a weapon, self-replicating, still active. Nina checked her scanner. It's dormant now, but unstable. If it wakes up. She didn't need to finish. They all knew. If that weapon escaped the zone, it could devour entire systems. The Council had sealed the area not out of cruelty but fear, and now humans were standing in the heart of it. Back on the Odyssey, Elena contacted Earth Command. We found the source. It's worse than we thought. The weapon is contained for now, but it's degrading. We might have weeks, maybe days. General Carter's reply was immediate. Do what you can. We're sending backup. There is no backup, Elena said quietly. Not out here, she turned to her crew. We fix this. Not because the galaxy asked, because it's right. And in that moment, far from home, surrounded by the bones of a dead civilization, humanity made its choice, not with weapons, not with words, but with action. The kind the galaxy had forgotten how to recognize. The derelict ship loomed like a dead god in the void, its corridors dark and silent except for the soft hum of failing systems. Inside, the human crew moved carefully, their boots clicking against metal floors that hadn't felt footsteps in centuries. Leo led the way, his scanner sweeping side to side while Nina followed close behind, recording every symbol, every shift in temperature. Daniel and Maya stayed near the rear, watching for structural weaknesses or hidden traps. Captain Elena Brooks remained in constant contact with the Odyssey, her voice calm but firm over the comms. They had found the core chamber deep in the ship's belly, a vast spherical room lined with crystalline pillars that pulsed with a faint blue light. At the center floated a sphere of swirling silver mist, contained within a lattice of energy fields. This was the weapon, dormant but not dead. The mist shifted slowly like liquid smoke, and every few seconds a tiny tendril would lash out against the barrier, testing it. It's breaking down, Leo said, pointing to a crack in one of the energy emitters. The containment field is losing power. Once it fails, the nanites will spread. Nina knelt beside a console covered in strange glyphs. The system is designed to self-repair, but it's too damaged. It needs an external input, a harmonic frequency that matches its original programming. And we don't have that, Daniel said. No, Nina admitted, but maybe we can build one. Back on the Odyssey, they worked through the night. Using parts from the ship's medical bay, communication array, and even the coffee maker, Leo and Nina rigged a resonance emitter. It wasn't elegant, but it was human, improvised, messy, and full of hope. They fed it data from the alien console, letting Helm, the ship's AI, calculate possible frequencies. Trial and error became their rhythm. Each test sent vibrations through the derelict, and each time the silver mist reacted, sometimes calming, sometimes surging. On the third attempt, something changed. The mist stilled. The crack in the containment field stopped growing. It's working, Leo whispered, but their relief was short-lived. A new alert flashed on the Odyssey's main screen. Sensors picked up incoming ships, fast, sleek, and bearing the Council's seal. The Velnari flagship, Sovereign Will, led a fleet of 5 warships, all decelerating hard at the edge of the quarantine zone. Ambassador Corin Vex's voice crackled over the emergency channel. Earth vessel Odyssey, you are in violation of Galactic Law 7 Alpha. Cease all activity and prepare for boarding. You will be held accountable for your trespass. Elena stood at the command console, arms crossed. Tell them we're dealing with an active extinction-level threat. We're not leaving until it's contained. Vex's reply was icy. The zone is sealed for a reason. Your interference risks galactic security. Stand down. They don't believe us, Maya said, watching the fleet draw closer on the display. Why would they? Daniel replied. To them, we're just reckless children playing with fire. But the humans didn't stop. While the Council fleet held position just outside the zone, the crew doubled their efforts. Leo and Nina refined the emitter, boosting its range and stability. Daniel and Maya worked with Helm to map the weapon's behavior, searching for weak points. Elena coordinated everything, her voice steady even as tension coiled in the air. Then, without warning, the containment field flickered. A single nanite escaped. It shot through the air like a spark, striking a metal beam. Instantly, the beam began to dissolve, its atoms rearranged into more nanites. The swarm grew, spreading fast. "Shut it down!" Elena yelled. Leo slammed a switch. The emitter overloaded, sending a pulse that froze the nanites mid-conversion. But the damage was done. The breach had widened. The weapon was waking up. "We need more power," Nina said, her hands flying over the controls. "The emitter can hold it, but only if we link it directly to the Odyssey's core. That'll drain our engines," Elena warned. "We won't be able to run if the Council attacks." "We're not here to run," Leo said. They made the connection. Energy surged through the makeshift cable and the emitter glowed white-hot. The nanite swarm slowed, then stopped. The silver mist retreated, curling back into its sphere. For now, it was contained. But the victory came at a cost. The Odyssey's engines went dark. Life support ran on backup batteries. They were stranded. Outside, the Council fleet shifted formation. Vex sent another message. "Your vessel is disabled. Surrender now or we will extract you by force." Elena didn't answer. She looked at her crew. "We bought time. Now we need a solution that lasts." Nina had an idea. The weapon was built to obey a command frequency. If we can find the original control code, we can shut it down permanently. "But it's buried in that alien ship," Daniel said. "And it's falling apart." "Then we go deeper," Maya said. They suited up again, this time with oxygen tanks and emergency tethers. The derelict groaned around them as they descended into its lower levels, where gravity twisted unpredictably and walls bled black fluid. At the very bottom, they found a vault, a sealed chamber behind a door of solid crystal. Leo placed his hand on it. The glyphs lit up. Helm, linked through his suit, translated the symbols in real time. It says, "Only those who seek to heal, not conquer, may enter." The door opened. Inside was a throne of light, a holographic archive containing the entire history of the lost civilization. And at its heart, a single command sequence, the off switch for the weapon. Nina recorded it. "We have it." But as they turned to leave, the floor collapsed. Maya fell first, caught by Daniel just in time. The corridor behind them crumbled into dust. The ship was dying, and it was taking them with it. They ran, leaping over gaps, dodging falling debris. Back on the Odyssey, Elena fired the maneuvering thrusters, just enough to keep the ship steady. The crew pulled their teammates aboard seconds before the derelict's core imploded. Safe inside, Nina uploaded the command code to the emitter. "One shot," she said. "If it fails, the weapon goes free." Elena nodded. "Do it." She pressed the button. Silence. Then, deep in the ruins, the silver mist collapsed inward, folding into a single point of light before vanishing. The weapon was gone, but their relief was cut short. On the view screen, the Council fleet powered up their weapons. Vex's voice returned, colder than before. "You have meddled with forces beyond your understanding. You will be detained for the safety of the galaxy." Elena stood tall. "We just saved your galaxy, and you're aiming guns at us?" No one answered. Outside, the stars watched. And the humans, small and tired and brave, prepared for whatever came next. The Council fleet hung in the void like a wall of judgment, weapons charged and shields raised. On the bridge of the Odyssey, the air was thick with tension. Alarms blinked red, but no one spoke. Captain Elena Brooks stood at the center, her eyes fixed on the main screen where the Velnari flagship loomed large. She knew they couldn't fight. Their engines were dead. Their shields were barely holding. And yet they had just done the impossible. They had stopped a weapon that had terrified the galaxy for 300 years. Ambassador Corin Vex's voice came through again, sharp and final. Last warning. Power down all systems and prepare for boarding. Elena took a slow breath. Tell them we've neutralized the threat. The weapon is gone. They won't believe us, Daniel said quietly from the comm station. Maybe not, Elena replied. But we have proof. She nodded to Nina, who sent a data packet through the emergency channel, a full log of their actions, sensor readings, the command code, and the moment the nanite swarm collapsed. It was all there, clear, undeniable. For a long moment there was silence. Then something unexpected happened. One of the smaller council ships, the Zenthari cruiser, broke formation. Its captain, a broad-shouldered being with deep green skin and eyes like polished stone, opened a private channel. This is Captain Rel of the Starward. We read your data. Explain how you stabilized the emitter with such limited power. Nina leaned forward. We used human neural feedback. Our brains adapt faster than standard AI when facing chaotic systems. We linked our thoughts to the emitter's control loop. It's not in any manual. We just tried. Rel was silent for a beat. That should have killed you. It almost did, Leo said, rubbing his temple where a vein still throbbed from the strain. But we took turns, shared the load. Another pause. Then Rel's ship powered down its weapons. On the sovereign will, Vex's voice turned colder. Captain Rel, return to formation. You are aiding lawbreakers. Rel's reply was calm. I am honoring those who faced a threat we all feared and did nothing about. If that is breaking the law, then the law is broken. More ships hesitated. The Cathari were long gone, but every species in the council knew the story of the quarantine zone. They had all chosen safety over courage. And now, a species they called Inferior had walked into the dark and come out with light. Before Vex could respond, a new alert blared across every ship's console. The derelict's core hadn't just imploded. It had triggered a chain reaction in the dead star at the center of the Dyson swarm. Solar flares erupted, massive and violent, tearing through the swarm's broken collectors. Fragments the size of cities were flung outward, and with them, residual nanites, reactivated by the energy surge. The weapon wasn't fully gone. It was spreading. Panic rippled through the council fleet. Ships scrambled to raise shields, but the nanites moved faster than predicted, riding the plasma waves like sparks on wind. One scout vessel got too close. Its hull shimmered, then dissolved into silver mist. Within seconds it was gone, replaced by a new cloud of self-replicating machines. They're heading toward the outer colonies, Daniel said, reading the trajectory. Billions of lives, Vex's voice cracked. All ships fall back. Establish a new quarantine perimeter. But that'll take weeks, Rel shot back. By then it'll be too late. Elena turned to her crew. We can stop it. How? Maya asked. Our emitter's fried. Not completely, Leo said, already moving. If we rebuild it using the Odyssey's main reactor as a power source and link it to Helm's core, we can broadcast the shutdown signal across the entire swarm. That'll overload the reactor, Nina warned. The ship won't survive. Elena looked at each of them. We knew this might happen. We came here to fix this, not to go home. No one argued. They got to work. While the council fleet retreated, the humans raced against time. Leo and Nina tore open panels, rerouting cables with bare hands. Daniel and Maya fed coordinates into Helm, mapping the nanite wavefront. Elena coordinated with Captain Rel, who sent over spare parts from his ship, things the humans didn't have but needed. Outside, the storm grew. Nanites consumed asteroids. Old satellites, even chunks of the Dyson swarm multiplying with every second. The council watched helpless as their greatest fear returned. Then the Odyssey powered up. Not its engines, those were gone, but its heart. The reactor glowed white as the emitter, now fused into the ship's spine, began to hum. Helm's voice came over the speakers, calm as ever. Broadcast sequence ready. Neural link stable. Warning, feedback may be fatal. Elena didn't flinch. Do it. The signal went out, a single pure tone carrying the shutdown command. It spread through the swarm, through the plasma, through the very fabric of space. Where it touched, the nanites froze, then collapsed. One by one, the silver clouds vanished, but the cost was high. The Odyssey's hull groaned under the strain. Lights flickered. Consoles exploded in sparks. The reactor was melting down. "Get to the escape pods," Elena ordered. "No," Leo said. "We stay. Someone has to hold the signal until it's done." "I'll stay," Elena said. "You all go." "You're the captain," Maya said. "They need you." "And you're the future," Elena replied gently. "Go." Reluctantly, the crew moved toward the pods. Only Elena remained on the bridge, her hands locked on the controls, her mind linked to helm, feeding the signal with her own thoughts. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just held on. Outside, the last of the nanites dissolved. The storm ended. The escape pod launched just as the Odyssey's core went critical. It drifted toward the Zenthari ship, which caught it in a tractor beam. On the view screen, the humans watched their ship, small, battered human, explode in a silent flash of light. In the council fleet, no one cheered. No one spoke. Even Vex was silent. Captain Rel opened a channel to the pod. "Your captain. She saved us all." Daniel looked out at the fading light where the Odyssey had been. "She didn't do it for you. She did it because it was right." And in that moment, the galaxy understood something it had forgotten. Courage isn't measured in lifespan or technology. It's measured in choices. And humanity had just made the hardest one. The escape pod drifted in silence, cradled by the tractor beam of the Zenthari ship starward. Inside, the four humans, Daniel, Maya, Leo, and Nina, sat in stunned quiet, their faces lit by the soft glow of emergency lights. Outside the small viewport, the wreckage of the Odyssey was gone, scattered into atoms, but its echo remained in the stillness of space. The nanite storm had vanished. The quarantine zone was calm again, and Captain Elena Brooks was gone with the ship that had carried them into the dark. No one spoke for a long time. There was nothing to say that wouldn't feel small. Grief sat heavy in the air, mixed with exhaustion and something else. Pride, maybe, or purpose. They had done what no one else would, and they had paid for it. A chime sounded. The pod's comms lit up. It was Captain Rel. "We're bringing you aboard. Medical team is ready." The humans nodded. They didn't argue. They were too tired to fight anymore. On the starward, they were treated not as prisoners but as guests. The Zenthari crew offered warm drinks, clean clothes, and quiet rooms. No questions. No accusations. Just respect. It was strange to them. This kindness from beings who just days ago had seen humans as little more than clever animals. Back at the Celestial Accord station, chaos had replaced order. News of what happened in the zone spread faster than any signal. Footage from the Zenthari ship showed the Odyssey's final moments, the small human vessel holding firm while the storm raged, then vanishing in a flash of sacrifice. Across the galaxy, species that had never cared about Earth now watched in awe. On a dozen worlds, children asked their parents, "What are humans like?" And for the first time, the answer wasn't violent or primitive. It was brave. Ambassador Corin Vex tried to hold the line. He called an emergency session of the Council, demanding that the humans be punished for breaking galactic law. But this time no one agreed. Captain Rel stood before the chamber, his voice steady. "They broke a rule to save us all. If that is a crime, then I am guilty too for not doing it myself." One by one, other delegates rose. The Mixari, who valued logic above all, admitted their models had failed to predict the nanite resurgence. The Thalor, who prized honor, bowed their heads in shame. Even the Velnari elders, watching from their homeworld, sent a private message to Vex. "Do not shame our species further." The council had no choice. They called Daniel and his team back to the Accord station, not as petitioners but as honored witnesses. When the humans arrived, they wore simple Earth uniforms, no medals, no symbols of victory. They walked into the great chamber where they had once been judged, and this time every delegate stood as they entered. Vex rose slowly. His silver skin seemed duller now, his posture less proud. He did not speak through the orb. He used a human translator so his words would be clear, direct, and his alone. "The Galactic Council was wrong," he said. We judged you by our standards, not yours. We saw your short lives and called you fragile. We saw your wars and called you savage. But in the face of true darkness, you did not run. You did not bargain. You gave everything, not for reward, not for power, but because it was right. He paused, then bowed his head. We declare the judgment of human inferiority void, not because you proved us wrong, but because you showed us what we had forgotten. The chamber remained silent. Then from the Zenthari alcove came a single clap. Another joined. Then another. Soon the entire chamber echoed with sound, different rhythms, different hands, but one message: respect. After the session, the council offered Earth full membership. All rights. All privileges. A seat at the table. Daniel stepped forward. We accept your apology, but we do not accept membership, not yet. Murmurs rose. Vex looked confused. Why not? Because membership based on pity or guilt is not real, Daniel said. We don't want a seat because you feel bad. We want a new kind of council. One that doesn't measure worth by lifespan or tech or how quiet a species is. One that values courage, compassion, and the willingness to help, even when no one is watching. He looked around the room. Let's build something better, together. The council debated for hours. But by dawn, Earth Dawn, broadcast live to every human city, they voted. Unanimously. The old charter was retired. In its place, the Accord of Shared Purpose was born, with humanity as its first co-author. On Earth, people watched the announcement in streets, homes, and labs. There were no cheers at first, just quiet tears. Then slowly, music rose, songs in every language. People hugged strangers. Children drew pictures of the Odyssey and Captain Brooks. At Selene 7, a new signal was sent. Not a distress call, but a greeting. Simple, human. We are here. We are listening. In the years that followed, humans didn't become the galaxy's leaders. They became its bridge. They helped rebuild trust between old enemies. They taught alien children how to solve problems with creativity, not force. And when new crises came, lost ships, dying stars, silent worlds, it was often a human crew that answered first, not because they were the strongest, but because they remembered what it felt like to be called lesser, and chose to be better anyway. Far out in the void, near the edge of the now peaceful quarantine zone, a small memorial floated, made of salvaged metal and engraved with one word in every known language: remember. And somewhere beyond the stars, if you listened closely, you could almost hear the echo of a human voice, calm, steady, and kind, saying, "It's okay. We've got you."